everybody, you are looking at the Matchbox Jeep Wagoneer, and as it swings around, you're seeing next to it is the Matchbox Volkswagen Golf Town and Country. Now, why am I showing you these to start this showcase? Well, for good reason. If you look at them, they're essentially the same size. Now, in real life, is the Wagoneer the same size as a Volkswagen Golf? Of course not. The Wagoneer is much bigger. But in the Matchbox / Hot Wheels world, they are essentially going to be the same size. Maybe some difference, but not a ton. And there's a good reason for that. Hot Wheels and Matchbox have blisters. They need the cars to fill those blisters, and that means scale is going to be a little bit wonky. Contrast it with this. Way off in the distance, that is a Daihatsu Midget by Tomica Limited Vintage, little 3-wheel key car. It is very, very small. You know how small it is? Well, I'll put it next to this Honda truck, which is slightly bigger. You want to know how small that is or how big it is? Well, I'll put it next to this Honda I think 600, which is a very small car. You want to know how small that is? Well, I'll put that next to this. This is a Porsche 911, 1962 or 1963, I believe. And if I put that next to this, that is a Nissan C10 Skyline. And I can put next to that a Nissan R33 Autech GTR, which, if there were a real Autech GTR sitting next to you and someone pulled up in an old Toyota Land Cruiser, that's what that would look like. And then, of course, if someone some worker pulled in with an old vintage Mazda E2000, it would look like that. But if someone was in that Mazda E2000 and then someone pulled up in a Daihatsu 3-wheel truck, and I don't even know what the name of that one is, it would look like that. And then, of course, if someone pulled up in another Nissan truck, it would look like that. So what am I getting at? Well, this is Tomica Limited Vintage. I have showcased this brand several times, but it is time for you to understand how amazing these models are. I've shown how detailed they are, but today I'm going to focus on scale. You're looking at that Nissan truck that I showed to end that last little run of models. Well, we can keep doing it. Tomica Limited Vintage, that's the Nissan Civilian, is dedicated to true 1/64 scale. That means if one model is sitting next to another model, it is the equivalent in 1/64 as the real thing sitting next to the other real thing in real life. So for example, if this Nissan Civilian was sitting next to a Hino shell truck, well, it would essentially cover it up. And if that Hino shell truck happened to be parked next to a Hino fire truck, that's what they would look like together. And of course, if that Hino fire truck were parked next to a, say, Hino bus, well, it would look like that. Should we keep going? Yeah, we can keep going. If that Hino bus was parked next to another Hino fire truck, it would look like that. Just in case you want to know. You can't see it because it's not in the shop, but that ladder goes on forever. And if that Hino fire truck was doing what it needed to do and uppulled a Hino 5-car carrier, you'd basically have that. You can't even see it because it's just way too big. So that's what I want to do today, is show you the amazing dedication to 1/64 scale of Tomica Limited Vintage. I'm going to show you a few of those models. I'm going to do a few other Tomica Limited Vintage features on the blog lamleygroup.com this week, and maybe a video or two as well, but let's focus on scale. All right, 3 things you need to know whenever I am showing Tomica Limited Vintage here on the channel or on lamleygroup.com, which I'm going to do a lot of this week. Number 1, they will only do a replica of a vehicle if they can actually get the actual vehicle in their studio, not just based on plans or photographs or anything else. They want to study and understand the actual car before they replicate it in 164. Number 2, they do stock. Whenever you see a model done by Tomica Limited Vintage, unless there's a specific reason, like maybe a modification, a factory modification that they want to do, you can trust that the car stance, wheels, every little detail will be stock. And when those models change, meaning if there's a slight change like the number of headlights or how the wheels look or the positioning of a tail light or whatever, they will change the casting to reflect that. They won't just make a slight modification. They will change the entire casting. And number 3, they are completely dedicated to scale. That means, like I said, if one car is sitting next to another car on the road, you can trust that if those cars are replicated in 164 by Tomica Limited Vintage, they will look exactly the same in small scale. So if a Daihatsu Midget was sitting next to a Toyota Supra, that is what they would look like. Just like that same Daihatsu Midget would look like sitting next to a Hino 5 car carrier. How cool is that? If you really want to get a sense, I can just put that right on top of the Datsun wagon that is sitting in there. So let's take a look at some of the small, some of the medium, and some of the somewhat large, and some of the enormous models from Tomica Limited Vintage. All right, we start with what I think is the smallest model that TLV does. There is that midget once again. We'll let it round through a couple of times so you can see that no matter how big or small these models are, they are incredibly detailed. Does this model roll? Absolutely it does. Are there shocks on it? Yeah, there are. And you can see that every little piece is accounted for. So even a removable top, if it has a removable top. Same goes for this Honda truck. I can't remember the exact name offhand, but you can see the Honda H there on the front. Wheels are a little bit bigger. Cab a little bit bigger. And like I said, everything is built from scratch. So the wheels, the headlights, they don't unless they have, I guess, by coincidence, a piece to repeat. Everything is built from scratch. Hence, these models with the quality and what goes into them are going to be far more expensive. Yes, this tiny little thing is going to cost you about $15, $20 just depending. I think this one's fairly old, so you take into that account too that it's harder to find. Tomica Limited Vintage will do, I don't know. There's really nothing they won't. I haven't seen any American cars. Here's the Honda S600, I believe, in a Dunlop racing deco. They'll do race cars, they'll do utility vehicles, city vehicles, emergency vehicles, and this one, of course, in a racing deco. And as we get bigger and bigger, you can see they'll do some European cars. We've seen German makers like Porsche, Mercedes, and BMW. We've seen some Italian makers like Lancia. This is the Delta Integrale. They've done 4 colors of this one, I believe. And they'll do small cars and, of course, bigger vehicles like the Toyota Land Cruiser. This one has been done in several different decos. This one in brown and white, or kind of a cream-colored white, is my favorite. I'm only showing a small sliver, and I'll be showing a lot more castings here in the future, but there are hundreds and hundreds of them. This one is the Daihatsu once again. Just like that small little midget, it is a 3-wheel vehicle, but this one is a little bit bigger, of course. I could do this. And yes, they will do modern vehicles as well. Both of these are modern. They don't do a ton, but this is the Nissan GTR sitting on top of the Nissan Atlas hauler. This Atlas hauler was probably one of the first vehicles that introduced many of you to Tomica Limited Vintage. It is wildly popular, especially this white one, because of its realism, the fact that it works, has the functioning rear piece. So they will do some of these modern ones, and of course that Nissan GTR is absolutely gorgeous. All right, we got to change the display because we're getting bigger. All right, this is one of several vintage buses, city buses in licensed deco. These are actual city buses from back in the day. This is I believe this is a Hino bus. They do Isuzu buses. if you want to get a sense. There's that scale next to the GTR. And then, of course, they've done some small passenger buses as well, like transport buses, like this one, the Nissan Civilian. And you can see that they are exactly to scale. I'll move this car. There's no reason for a car to be sitting on top of a bus. All right, should we get to the emergency fire vehicles? Okay, Tomica Limited Vintage has done a lot of Hino vehicles, especially a lot of Hino trucks. They have used this vintage cab a lot. This is the fire truck. I've told you that these things are wildly detailed. Look at all of the separate pieces, the rubber hoses, all of that is why Tomica Limited Vintage is just so incredible. These trucks are absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and they're dead expensive too. But again, you get what you pay for, and you can see how amazing these are. And if you think this one is, it's the ladder truck that's the mind blower. All right, here it is. This is the Hino ladder truck. You can see that the grill is very similar to the other fire truck that I showed you. And again, incredible detail. And this one is also pretty well known for its moving parts. You can see that ladder will come all the way out, basically to the camera. Check that out. Anyway, yeah, I know we're talking about scale here, but pretty amazing, right? All accurate. All based on a real fire truck, and I don't know what city this one in particular is from because of the writing on the side, but it's based on an actual fire truck. And we finish off today with utility trucks. There's plenty others, but from the large scale, this is also Hino. You can see the cab is exactly the same as the fire trucks. Vintage cab, shell, tanker, all of the detail, if you want to see. Detail even on the bottom. Do they roll? Well, you can see they have the double wheels there. Of course they roll. And they roll actually quite well. And we will finish off with this. So big that it barely fits in the shot. Well, it doesn't fit in the shot at all. It is the Hino Carrier. 5-car carrier. I have 5 models there. In the back, they do open, or this is a functioning piece. I'll just show you right there that it does open. This is a more modern Hino cab. They actually released this one as a separate, just the cab at one point. They just sold the cab. Oh, go ahead and put that back together. And I think that the new truck that is coming out, the new wing opening truck that is actually just out now, it's a Japan booster, and I'll be featuring it when I get it later in the week, is also the same cab. I could be wrong, but I think that's the case. It is another monster, and when I show it, you're going to be impressed as well. There you go. From the very, very large to the tiny, tiny small to a whole bunch of stuff in between. To even the very, very popular. I'm a huge fan of Tomica Limited Vintage. I think it's time for a lot of you to get to know this brand a little bit more. It is the number one, the top line in quality 164 brand that there is. You want to see accurate, beautiful, scaled models. It does not get any better than this. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed looking at this video or watching this video. I sure enjoyed putting it together. It might be a little scawampus, but there's just so much good stuff. And I'm going to try and break it down for you throughout the week. Visit the blog. Check out the channel. Thanks, everybody. Bye.